I'm going to just share, over these next 20 minutes about my story and my journey to what's happened, from the beginning to now. Now, I grew up in the United States of America in a Hindu Punjabi family. Now, I've got one fellow Punjabi brother over here. I don't know how many other Punjabis there are here. But growing up in that family, I was actually quite strong in my Hindu faith, almost more so than my parents. They were more nominal with the faith, but I was always the one that wanted to go to the temples, to do the pujas in our homes. I was so committed to the faith to the point that I got Om tattooed onto my shoulder, which if any of you want to see it after the event, by all means, you can come and talk to me about it. But I was very committed to the faith. Now, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, there was something happening in India, and I don't know if many of you remember this, but there was this huge thing happening where Ganesh was drinking milk from spoons, and people were claiming that Ganesh was blessing people. So I got a call or my mother got a call from our Masis in Mumbai, and of course she and I got very excited. So we went to our mandap, we went to do our puja and do all the different rituals, and we were just super excited to go through this process. So my mother puts milk onto the spoon, and we both, get ready for this. We close our eyes, and we lift the spoon up to the Ganesh statue, and we just waited, and we waited, and we waited. And then we opened our eyes, and the milk was still in the spoon. So she puts the spoon down, she looks at me, and she says, Beta, looks like the gods aren't going to bless us right now. I went to school that day, angry, frustrated, and sad. And I started to ask questions in my mind. Why not? What is wrong with me? What did I do wrong? What didn't I do right? Why are the gods not going to bless us right now? So on that day, I made a decision. Now, there might be a God, there might be gods, there might be some sort of supreme being out there. I still believe that, but for me right now, it's irrelevant. It's not that important to me right now. So, in high school, I set a new goal for myself. My new goal was to become popular in school. And there were two ways to do that. One was to party hard, get into drinking, get into drugs, get into all those types of things. So that was one way to get popular. The second way was to become a top athlete in the school. I decided to pursue both. I partied hard. I was one of the biggest party animals in the school. I would dance and become the center of attention, break dance, all these different things. And I also became one of the top athletes in soccer in my school. So this led me to become one of the popular guys in my school. So then later, went into university. And then I wanted to become popular in college. And of course, what did I do then? I actually joined what's known as a fraternity. It's like a society, like a brotherhood. And what do these people do? Well, they party. And I was actually sick of the partying. I didn't want to do that anymore. But in order to be popular on campus, I've got to do this. So I did it, and I became popular at my college campus. But I started to get really bored of this. I started to get really bored of the same old partying, the same old conversations. So I decided I'm going to set a new goal for myself. This time, I want to be successful. I want to make a lot of money. I want to be a business person. That was the new goal I was going to set out for. And we all want that to some degree, right? We want success in our life. Now, it was around this time that I met my future wife. Now, my wife is the daughter of a pastor. Now, I didn't even know what pastor was. When I heard pastor, I thought she was saying pastor like a sheep herder or something. I wasn't quite clear on that. But she was a pastor's daughter. Now, she grew up under very challenging circumstances. So she actually kind of went away from the faith to a large extent. She didn't want to have anything to do with the faith. She also wanted to pursue success. So she and I get together, and to seal her fate in this success-driven mindset, she marries the Hindu. So we get married, and we start launching different companies together. Now, in the beginning, we had some failures, but by the time I was 22, we launched our first successful multi-million-dollar internet company. And a couple in their early 20s, what do you expect them to do when they suddenly, achieve success and an abundance of resources? Well, we bought everything we could possibly have ever dreamt of. I started buying fancy sports cars. I started buying jet boats. I started buying different real estate properties. I started buying all kinds of different things. But didn't stop there. I started to show it off to everybody. I started to show it off to my friends, to my family members, to the neighbors in our community. I was showing it off to everybody, and very quickly, we became the center of attention. Everyone in our community, everyone in our circles started to look up to us. People twice my age started to look up to me. And once again, I felt like I made it. I did it. I achieved the goal I set out to achieve. But then, I needed a new goal. You see, I found myself constantly pursuing these different goals. I constantly took the goal marker and started shifting it around. I realized I kept pursuing this because I was never actually satisfied. There was this hunger, this longing that was happening inside me. And I was trying to fill that hunger with my achievements, with my success, with my popularity. And ultimately, I was trying to achieve filling of this hunger with my performance. But every single time, I was left dissatisfied. I was left unfulfilled. And look, we all go through some form of this. You know, every time we hit the goal, every time we reach that goal we're going for, we kind of are left with this, well, I don't know, this isn't enough. I want more than this. Or maybe, you feel bored or restless or unfulfilled, or you start to question and think, well, there's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be something more. I feel like something's missing. Now, for me, every time I went through those moments, I went through what felt like depression or a strong sense of dissatisfaction or a strong sense of unfulfillment. You see, I realized that a performance-driven lifestyle was filled with exhaustion. It was filled with bitterness. It was filled with frustration and anger and jealousy and at times a ready-to-give-up attitude. I realized that this performance-driven lifestyle was leading to a lifestyle of empty promises in my life. Now, it was around this time that my wife, in the community that we were living in, a woman, a neighbor, invited her to a Bible study. Well, she didn't really want to go, but eventually she decided, you know what, she's a friend. I don't want to offend her. I'll go. I'll go to the Bible study. And I said, yeah, sure, fine. Let's go for it. So she starts going to this Bible study. And that's when God begins to work in her heart again. And that prompts her to start going to church. So she starts going to church. Then she invites me to church. And that's when, whoa, hold on. That's where I draw the line. You can do all these things, but no, I'm not going to church. Now, at this stage, we had our first 2 kids. We have 3 kids, but at this point, we had 2 kids. And I realized if religion was suddenly going to become a topic of conversation, and if I want her to respect my religion, if I want her to come to the temple with me at some point, well, I've got to go to church with her. So I did that. I went a few times. And actually, there was this one service. It was a Christmas service, big production, performances, dances, this whole thing. We go to this service, and actually my brother and his wife, who happens to be my wife's sister, did you guys follow that? 2 brothers married 2 sisters, Bollywood. They come with us to the service. The pastor preaches his message, and at the end of the message, he asks everyone to close their eyes, bow their heads down, and for those of you who accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, raise your hand high and pray this prayer with me. So, of course, I kept my eyes open. I start scanning the room to see what suckers fell for this brainwash. And I look behind me, and I see my brother like this. Oh, man, I was furious. I was so angry. It was as if he just cheated on his family. He cheated on his roots. He cheated on his religion. Like, how could he do this? So after the service, I didn't tell him how I felt, but after the service, I told my wife, I said, Sarah, if you want to do the Bible study thing and the church thing, by all means, go for it. Feel free. But for me, leave me out of it. I'm done. She said, okay. You think it's over, right? No. A few days go by. It's the middle of the night. She wakes up, and she feels God is speaking to her. She feels God is telling her that a separation is occurring, that she's going in one direction and I'm going in another. So she starts crying out to God, God, what can I do? She feels God say to her, speak to him. Okay, in the morning, I'll talk to him. No, speak to him now. I'm not waking up my husband in the middle of the night. That's a bad idea. I'll just talk to him in the morning. My phone rings. I wake up, I crawl out of bed. God says to her, I've woken him. Now speak to him. No one on the other line of my phone. So she starts talking to me. She starts sharing about how God's working in her life through this Bible study, through church, all these amazing things. Then she tells me how God is telling her that there's a separation occurring. And I lost it. I started yelling at her. I got so angry with her. I just started saying all kinds of nasty things because I thought she was trying to manipulate me into jumping on board with this whole God thing. Otherwise, we're going to end up divorcing. That's not what she was saying, but it's how I was perceiving it. So I just kept yelling and saying all kinds of nasty things to her. And the last thing I said to her, if God is showing you all these things and telling you all these things, then why is he showing me nothing? I'm done with this conversation. I'm going back to bed. So I crawl back into bed, threw the blanket over me, very angry, very heated. I'm just like, oh, I can't believe this. And that's when it happened. That's when God began to reveal himself to me through visions. Now keep in mind, I was born and raised in the U.S. We are taught to question everything. We are cynical and skeptical about everything. But God is doing something that I just could not understand. He just starts showing me things. And I won't get into all of the visions right now, but one of the last things that I saw was my hand reaching up and an old man's hand reaching down. And as the hands were coming closer and closer together, a gold chain appeared on his wrist, and that chain transferred from his wrist over to mine. And as it did, a gold cross appeared in the center. Now, after the visions were done, I looked up at my ceiling, and we had a ceiling fan going as a noisemaker to help us sleep, not for temperature control. But my ears went deaf. I couldn't hear anything. And then I felt this very cool, clean, misty air just hover over me and exit to my left. And when it exited, my hearing came back, and I knew whatever just happened, it was finished. Now, while all that was going on, my wife had no idea. She just got yelled at by me. She's laying in bed crying and crying out to God, and she's asking God, there's got to be something we can do. My marriage can't end like this. God, there's got to be something we can do. I've got plans to do things for you, God. What can I do? And that's when God spoke to her and said, no, it's not just you, it's him. That's when God began to reveal to her how he's shifting my heart of stone and softening it to flesh, and how he's drawing me to him, and how we'd be moving to India. So she was the first person to get the insight that we're going to be moving to India. She's not Indian. She's never been to India. So that was a big shock for her. Anyways, fast forward, next few days, we don't really talk. I kind of just, I'm a little freaked out by what happened. And I'm trying to think this through, but eventually I share what happened with her. And this propels me on a journey to figure out for myself what's going on. Who is this God that's talking to me? This is not something I've ever experienced before, but I believe whatever is happening is real. It's happening. It's clearly something of a supernatural. So what is it? Who is it? I started diving deeper into Hinduism, studying the different Vedic scriptures. I started diving into the Quran because really, I want to disprove my wife. I didn't want her to be right. I was trying to disprove that this had anything to do with the God that she talks about. I was trying to disprove this had anything to do with Jesus, the Bible, or Christianity. But continually, time and time again, as I'm going through this journey over the next few months, God would talk to me in these radical ways. He would do things to reveal things to me about people in different people in my life, about my family members. He would do things to reveal things about myself, about my own heart. There was this one moment, I woke up one morning, and I said, okay, God, I want to know deeply what's going on, but I have a question as well. How do I pray? Like, I grew up doing pujas and doing all the different rituals, but this is different. I don't understand this. So how do I even pray? So I decided that morning to drive to the Hindu temple and to get answers, speak to the pundit and get some answers. So I'm waiting in the queue, And as I'm waiting in the queue, I'm standing next to his library, and I'm looking at the library, and I notice that there's a Bible on the bottom shelf. Thinking, why is there a Bible in the Hindu temple? So I look at it, and I'm contemplating, I'm thinking, should I touch it? Should I not? I don't want to burn my fingers. I don't want to disobey my other gods. Okay, let me just look at it. So I pick it up, and there's an Om bookmark in the Bible. I'm like, oh, okay, God's talking to me. This is clear now. There's an Om bookmark. Clearly, He's talking to me. I open up to the bookmark page, and on the top, it says how to pray. And it was the Lord's Prayer, which was mentioned earlier today. So I read the Lord's Prayer, I close the Bible, throw it back on the shelf, and I run back home, and I just start praying. Now, at the time, I was just repeating that prayer over and over again, because I didn't know any better, but I just started praying that prayer. Through this journey, God eventually revealed to me that we'd be moving to India. Didn't know why, didn't know what we were supposed to do, didn't know anything about that. Just knew we had to go, and I was listening. I didn't care about our businesses anymore. I didn't care about our possessions anymore. All those things for me became very meaningless. All I wanted to do was follow this God that's talking to me. And He's saying, go to India, I'm ready to go. Just didn't know where. So after a family dinner, actually on the way to the dinner, I stopped by our office and I told my wife, I'm going to print out a map of India, and somehow on this map, God's going to tell us where to go. So we drive to the dinner, and after the dinner, we come back, and I just park the car outside, and I stepped out of the car, and I just start praying out to God, and I feel that God tells me, go back in the car and pray with your wife. Okay. At the same time, God was telling my wife that Rajiv has not accepted Him yet, which troubled her because everything I was doing, the way I was acting and talking, everything seemed like I had. So we got in the car. I shared this with her. I told her, what you're hearing is correct. I'm talking to this, about this God as God, but I never said the name Jesus. Not once did I say the name Jesus. So we prayed. I went outside. And at this point, I am crying. I'm just in this desperate emotional state. I'm crying out to God, and I'm saying, God, what is it you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? Just give me some clarity in this. And that's when I looked up at the sky, and I saw a figure come down. Head, shoulders, no facial features, just this bright white light in the shape of a person. And then I saw two hands come out in front, and the hands spread apart. And when the hands spread apart, I could see millions and millions of people in India. And I heard God say that I love you so much. Now I need you to share my love to the people in India. I need you to proclaim the gospel to the people in India. When I heard that, and when I saw that, I realized that this God who's speaking to me, it is in fact Jesus. He is the God, the one and only God, and He's my God. And He loves me, even though I spent my life rejecting Him. Even in those short few months, while He was speaking to me, I was trying to reject Him. But He loves me, and He loves you, and He wants others to know the truth of what the gospel is. Which is this, that while God designed us and ideated us in His mind, that He has created us in His image. So in a sense, we are good in that way. But we also inherit sin. We also inherit guilt and shame and condemnation. We also inherit corruption. Every good thing we do, everything has been tainted by sin. And we need rescuing. I needed rescuing. He revealed to me the issues of my own heart. Why I was pursuing success, why I was pursuing popularity, why I was pursuing all those things is because I wanted people to worship me. I wanted the glory. But when I see that God is a God who's personal, a God who communicates, I realize how small I was, yet at the same time how special I was in His eyes. So special that He would send His Son Jesus to die on my behalf and be raised again so that I could actually have a new, renewed, transformed life. You see, as I look back at my life, I realize that all those pursuits, like I said, was my way for others to worship me, to elevate myself. But today, all I want to do is elevate Jesus in the eyes of people. All I want to do is help others see that the thing we long for, the thing that we're hunting for, that we're searching for, that fills that void, is fulfilled in Jesus. Like I said earlier, living this performance-driven lifestyle, it led to a life of empty promises. But living a Christ-centered lifestyle leads to fulfilled promises. Living a Christ-centered lifestyle leads to a life of peace, power, and purpose. Jesus is the true source of peace and power and purpose. With Jesus, we have stability, knowing who we are, what we were made for, knowing that nothing can ever change the fact that we will never, ever be separated from God, from now and forever. So we can have peace in that. We can have stability in that. And that brings about an energizing power in our life. Not the kind of worldly power that we try to search for through our success and achievements, but a godly power that inculcates everything in our entire being. And then from there, we get to live out our true purposes, the purposes that God designed us for in the first place. So I leave you with that. I leave you with the fact that my life was transformed from a performance-driven lifestyle to a Christ-centered lifestyle, leading me to live a life of peace, power, and purpose that can only come from the true creator and redeemer of the world, Jesus Christ. Thank you.